So I rehydrate my brush. Sometimes it looks cleaner, sometimes it's just not super stiff. And what I do is, you can do it a couple ways. You can go ahead and just coat your cup with ink. I always just squirt a little bit on my foil because I find it goes farther this way. And I just dust it in my brush. I just kind of coat just to get like a base color on it. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be it does not have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be even. It doesn't have to have detail. We are just looking straight for coverage. And we're just going to keep working our way up until where you want the ocean. I honestly, sometimes I just cover the whole dang thing so that if the ocean doesn't cover good, then it's got a background. And like my alcohol ink dripped. Yeah, I'll probably go up a little farther, and you can even pour this directly on the cup, but I don't feel like dealing with like the runs and catching it. Sorry if you hear my kids and the neighbors running around in the background. I don't often do lives when my kids are awake, but so, okay, now that I have it covered, I go ahead and I switch to my smaller brush. So I just put a little bit extra ink on my foil. I don't worry if it evaporates or dries out. It's okay. So this is where I use smaller brushes. I either use like the eyeshadow or the brow brush, or just, I guess it's for eyeshadow. These I all got at Target in like a multi-pack. And I just, again, it's crunchy, so I hydrate it and I just dab most of the moisture off, because if you leave a lot of it, it's just gonna so I just start at the top, and this is how I do my wood grain in general. So if you watch my other tutorial about my wood grain mug, it's the same concept. So I just start on one area, and instead of going up and down, I'm pushing it to the side. And I am literally just trying to push that ink into some sort of line. And I'm like, I'm thinking old wood boards, so jaggedy edges, like, I mean, when I think water and wood, I think like water rot. And I'm literally just pushing. I mean, if you want a sharper line on the bottom, then push the ink that way. Now, if your brush isn't wet enough, you can tap the paper towel. If it's still not getting enough, go ahead and just dip it back in the cup. Okay, I didn't dab a lot off, so it took a lot of the ink off, which is fine. I'm just going to dab it more on that paper towel because I don't want it to bleed that much. Since it bled so much, I'll go ahead and just push it longer. Give myself a bigger plank. Again, I am pushing the ink to the edges to give me that edge of that board. And then time to start a new one. If you feel like you need ink, grab it off your foil. It's gonna dry, but the thing is you have a damp brush, so you just touch it and it picks it up. And it's kind of nice because it kind of concentrates it sometimes. So if you weren't necessarily happy with that ink line, you're like, oh, it's kind of fat, this is where you get to like fix it. Go in from both sides. I mean, and I'm thinking I don't want crisp line. That's why I'm not using the tape method for this, is I don't want clean crisp lines. To me, like, the look I'm going for is like an old ship. And to me, that is not brand new wood boards. That is old boards, falling apart. You got some water rot, you got dirt, grime, you got shadows, which is why to me, you're gonna have like little cracks and crevices. So I don't want that straight line. So again, and you can do them short, you can do long. That first row, you kind of set a guideline for like where you're gonna start staggering. The garage is super dry today, so it's all like sucking the moisture out of everything. So I'm just gonna wet my brush. You can see once I wet it, the ink will help me get that line along the bottom that we like to just make another definition. Now if your brush is super wet like this one right now, get your basic board outline done and then move to your next line. Just get that one done. We'll go to the next one, use the excess moisture that we have right now to get the next one going. Now, if you're not getting that bottom line, then push the ink down. Then you can go back and use your brush to sweep across to smooth it out. And that's your first row. Yeah, it looks super light, right? That's okay. The whole purpose was just getting your lines out, like your boards. Then you can go back. Your brush is drying out. You can add texture. You can do miniature knots in it, like I do with my wood grain mugs, where you just sit there and work the ink out from the center. Over and over. If you want to add a different color, get another ink, drop it on your foil next to your current one. Honestly, right now, I'm just going to get my boards done. And then I'll go in and do the texture. That way it gets a little bit of the moisture going. So once I find a crack, I never line up my lines. I stagger them. So I just start spreading my ink in the middle. Now I don't like it to end right in the middle, so just my OCD. Make them as wide as you want. Don't be scared. We can always fix it. Now, if you don't want to add too much moisture, but you need a little moisture, just get your spray bottle, put your brush on your paper towel, spritz it over the paper towel, and that will give it a little moisture with not going too crazy. your boards do not have to be the same length. You gotta think like when they're building things, especially back in the day, like it's not precise, it's not exact. Things break, they fill it in. Shoes? Are they over there?
Oh, they're gone.
Go find them. We'll just go ahead and get basic. You can make them as long or as short as you want. Push it together. Like I said, you can do the tape method where you literally cover the whole thing with electrical tape and do like a dark ink. But to me, like, they just turn out too perfect. So far, pretty cool. What's up, bud? Go look over there. Miranda, can you help your brother find his shoes, please? Can you help your brother find his shoes, please? Yeah. Again, just figure out. They don't even have to be the same thickness as usually the same row. I keep the same thickness, but like different rows can be a little thinner, a little thicker. Normally, I'm not having to dry or dip my brush so much in alcohol, but dang. This is going crazy. I mean, you can even use your brush thickness or width as your guide. And that's kind of what I do, is I'll do like one thickness. Sometimes I'll do like 1.5 of the brush. Those who've seen my aerial, see how cool is that? It's pretty cool. Those who've seen my aerial cup, I think that one was like 1.5 of this brush. See, and you just keep going around. You can go in with other brushes once you get everything done. I just rehydrate my brush and then I swirl it around on the foil and it picks up. You can go in and darken it. You can add color. You can add knots. And these spots are so close, like so small. So literally just go back and forth. Swoosh in to get knots. To get some knots. You can get a drier brush, like a super dry brush if you want to add like really big brush strokes. Sometimes I'll add a little bit of, and I mix the colors. Here's sepia. She's a little redder. And I will add in just a little bit, but I'll mix it. So it's still closer. And I just push it in to, let's see. And it gives it a little redder or a little more golden. You know, you just change it up. It's not going to be you don't want it to be perfect. You don't want it to be exact. You don't want it to be, I don't do a pattern. I try to make it more random and sporadic. Okay, so there's that one. So now maybe add a little bit of butterscotch. Butterscotch is that lighter, like a yellower. Again, I take it and I mix it a little bit with a little bit of the teak wood, so it's not too dramatic, but it adds a different shade. It's still in that color family. And then you just go like swoosh. Push little spurts of ink, it makes like little ripples. And this is what I do. I just do until a little bit farther than I want my ink to go. So I go down a little farther and then the ocean, I will come up. So I'm gonna finish this and let it dry, and then we will go ahead and I will hop on and I'll put the videos together of doing the water. You can take a brown Sharpie, you can take a black Sharpie. You got to be careful. Black usually goes like a bluish funky color, but for the dots I just literally, let me see what I do right here. I take it and I just do 2 dots. Sometimes I do 1 dot because hey, that plank of wood might have only needed 1 dot, but when I do 1 dot, the other side gets 1 dot. So then, you know, and that's all I do. So I let my cup dry for at least like 12 hours before I will epoxy. I do not seal. I just don't have good luck with sealing inks. They either turn colors, which when they turn, once you get the epoxy on and the epoxy set, it goes back. My thing is when I epoxy and I've sealed it, if I add any heat, it like runs. So I just do not add heat or don't seal it off. It doesn't need it. I just go ahead, let it dry really good, and then we'll go ahead and ink. Yeah, so I will put the videos together and post this when it's all done. But here is the start of it, and I will see you in a little bit.